big words, but kindergarten readiness is multidimensional, is really, really something we need to key in on. And those skills, when I say multidimensional, mean like early literacy. So letter knowledge, reading behaviors, early math, early social emotional skills, and that emotional regulation, and social problem solving, and positive and negative social behaviors and what to do. Hi, I'm Crystal Luce, professor of education.
And I'm Aimee Ketchum, pediatric occupational therapist.
Welcome to Plant the Seed of Learning, the podcast where we merge education and medical models to bring you science-based, practical insights on all things early childhood.
Whether you're a parent, teacher, therapist, or a policymaker, we're here to help you support children from the start.
Mm.
So, hello, welcome, Crystal. Today we're
Thank
going to
you.
be talking about one of our favorite topics, kindergarten readiness, which is very timely as most children are now registering for kindergarten. It's month of March. And we need to start with a daily dose of data because there is some very relevant data that came out that was published in all the newspapers last week. It seems like everywhere I look, I was seeing articles about this. So they completed the National Survey of Children's Health, and they found that two-thirds of our nation's 3 to 5 year olds are on track for kindergarten. So that leaves a lot of children that we have to help with some catch-up work. They
Mm.
had thousands of children in the study, and they looked at early learning, motor skills, social emotional development, self-regulation, and health. And they found that nationally, only about two-thirds of all the children assessed are on track to start kindergarten with the skills necessary to learn. So
Mm.
that's a
That's
little bit
alarming.
concerning. Yes, exactly. And some parts of the study, and then some additional articles came out with some more specifics at certain states and regions.
Mm.
For example, um, I saw an article that Oregon was one of the states at the bottom, South Dakota, one of the states that had almost 50% of children not on track to start kindergarten. And
Mm.
of course, there's many underserved pockets around the country where these numbers are even lower. So I'm
I
really glad
can't
we're
help.
talking about this today.
I want to blame technology, but we really don't know what the root cause of this is, but I am glad that they looked at the whole child, not just how many letters do you know? They looked at all things early learning, including motor skills and social emotional development and self-regulation,
Mhm.
really crucial in early learning.
Yes. I think people so often think that children need to know their ABCs and one, two, threes,
Yeah.
but if they can't sit quietly or walk in a line with other children or wait their turn during play, they're not going to learn these skills. So it's almost as if these soft skills of like the self-regulation and like are almost more
Mm-hmm.
important.
There's so many things
Learning.
to prepare those little kiddos with before they enter kindergarten, and self-regulation is huge. Not being able to control emotions rather than throw a tantrum is so important when they're in a classroom setting.
Mhm. It's because it could be incredibly disruptive to the entire class, right? That
Yeah,
can
yeah.
impact everybody's learning, not just theirs.
And
Yeah.
when you look at behaviors today as a whole in education, many early career teachers within the first 5 years are exiting education because they're finding it overwhelming to be a teacher today.
That classroom management piece, I think, is probably the hardest
Mhm.
aspect of their job. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
So today we're examining a topic near and dear to many parents, especially as we enter the kindergarten registration period in many schools, and this leads to some nervous parents. As a former kindergarten teacher and coordinator of learning development, I have learned so much about K readiness, and it really shouldn't be called K readiness. kindergarten readiness. It should be called school readiness because the schools have to be viewed as that safe haven for children. So we need to be that welcoming place where we're ready to support children wherever they are developmentally. So that's why the article Patterns of Children's Readiness at School Entry was so appealing to both Aimee and I because we wanted to consider if classroom interactions mattered. So, this debrief on this very small study argues that kindergarten readiness is not a single skill, like knowing letters, but a pattern of skills across academic and social emotional domains. Children enter kindergarten with a different readiness profile. And these profiles can predict how well they do, especially when combined with the quality of classroom interactions. So I love that this study sampled kindergartners from a very large and diverse school district in the United States. And it looked at whether patterns of readiness skills at kindergarten entry could be detected and the extent to which detected patterns predicted gains in academic and social emotional skills, and also whether the quality of teacher child interactions moderated the associations between their readiness profile and kindergarten outcomes. So, a lot of big
Yeah.
words, but
Yep.
especially that kindergarten readiness is multidimensional is really, really something we need to key in on and those skills, when I say multidimensional, mean like early literacy. So, letter knowledge, reading behaviors, early math, early social emotional skills, and that emotional regulation, and social problem solving, and positive and negative social behaviors and what to do. It also considered school readiness as a descriptor. And when you think about school readiness, it means the mastery of early skills and competencies really needed for children to be successful in school. And then also early literacy readiness was something they zeroed in on, and that includes letter recognition and basic phonological awareness, understanding print concepts, books, and which way they open, what those letters are called. They're called words and emerging writing behaviors, which we talked about in a previous podcast. Name writing attempts are really important. And also letter like forms. I know when we're bringing families in for kindergarten registration, at one of our stations, we typically ask children to write their names. And we're watching not that they can write their names, but do they write left to right? Do they hold the pencil correctly? All of those things are very telling.
Yeah, because they haven't necessarily been taught how to form each letter yet, right?
No,
So
no.
writing their name is almost like a splinter skill. It's almost like a
Yeah.
skill that comes kind of out of sequence of, the typical skill learning because they might have a very long name with a lot of letters that
Yeah.
they've just kind of figured out on their own how to form those letters, but they probably haven't had a lot of very structured teaching on letter formation yet.
Hmm.
So that's not the most important thing at this point. Um, what I love the most about this study is they found that social emotional readiness is the strongest predictor of kindergarten success, and this really aligns with the national study that just came out, where they really address the social emotional component too, which includes um, students showing skills such as following routines, managing their emotions, sustaining attention, cooperating with peers. This really helps them benefit from instruction. And I mean, just that's a mouthful. Like that, those right there are a lot of skills for a 5-year-old to have. Managing
Mhm.
emotions, and they don't even have the prefrontal cortex or the frontal lobe of their brain developed
Right.
enough yet that they, have that skill. Um, so we'll dive a little deeper on how we start teaching some of these skills to 3, 4, 5-year-olds. Um, and, because it's really important to note that students who come into kindergarten with weaker academic skills but stronger social skills will make significant gains during kindergarten. They'll learn very quickly those academic skills if they have sort of the social emotional readiness.
That's reassuring. If
Yeah,
they come in with
absolutely.
those weaker academic skills, but strong social skills,
Yes.
that's half the battle.
Absolutely, absolutely. But it can be very challenging. I mean, teaching a child to follow routines, have sustained attention to something, can are, difficult skills for young children, but these are things we can
Mhm,
start practicing from a very young age. Um, Another key finding from this study was the idea that high quality teacher-child interaction yields benefits for children, especially those who begin the school year with lower patterns of skills across academic and social emotional domains. And I love that they highlighted this because we know as teachers and therapists, we know the research is overwhelming that it's those back and forth interactions where learning happens. So when a parent or caregiver is interacting with a child, playing with a child, reading to a child, telling stories, just talking back and forth, that's when true learning happens, where they learn, from us and scaffold their language or, start building more vocabulary by hearing the words we speak to them. That is so important. And it all starts with that early bonding and attachment
mhm.
that we talk about all day long in the neonatal intensive care unit and, newborn babies and just talking to babies and having that connection with babies is really where this is grounded. Um, I mean,
Yeah.
we don't expect children to be able to control their emotions completely at age 5, but to have some understanding of, some ability to monitor how they're feeling, maybe start to name emotions is really important. I know I love those little emotion cards where there's pictures
Mhm,
of children with, happy face, sad face, surprise face, and you can start
mhm.
talking about what are the different emotions, naming the emotions. As parents are reading a book to a child, they might stop in the middle of the story and say, "How do you think this little girl is feeling in this story? She
Mhm.
dropped her teddy bear. Is she happy or sad? And when's the
Yeah.
time you felt sad?" And, really starting to incorporate talking about emotions with children to help them start to
I
understand. Yeah.
yeah. I love the idea of teaching the emotions because some kids aren't exposed to that and don't understand their emotions, but most importantly, I love that this study talks about teachers and the connection to teachers and how meaningful that is and how much that will propel a child forward. That relationship, as you stated, starts at birth with families.
Yep.
But once they hit the school, they're away from their family secure setting, which is so important to them. So it is really important to make that connection to a teacher.
Yeah. Oh, so true.
Yeah.
You have been a kindergarten teacher, you have led kindergarten registration. I've worked in countless kindergarten classes as an occupational therapist. And
Mhm.
now my daughter is a kindergarten teacher. She's a new college grad teaching in a kindergarten class. So I love hearing the stories and having still kind of a hand in what's going on in kindergarten.
Mhm.
Because really, kindergarten is designed to teach early literacy and writing skills. So, pre-teaching these skills might not ensure success in kindergarten, as there's so many important skills that children
Mhm.
need to be successful. So, we really need to, like you said, look at the whole picture, look at the whole child, and look at the skills they need so that they're ready to learn. So I think, we really need to think about how we can support families and children as they prepare for kindergarten, looking at them holistically and looking at all of those areas of health, self-regulation, emotional, social development, along with the motor skills and
Mhm.
academic skills too.
Oh, yeah. And I think we're going to dig into an article from American, like the Academy of Pediatrics.
Yes, we have a
Yeah.
great article.
Yeah.
It's research from Krosh and colleagues that indicate preparation is most effective when it includes the holistic support across multiple domains. So it suggests that encouraging shared reading and conversations to build language and literacy skills is really, really important. It provides play-based learning to support cognitive and social skills. We love that, right?
I love
Play-based, we're
that.
all about play-based learning.
And so many kindergartens are adopting play-based learning today.
Yay,
So
thank
we're seeing
goodness.
that purposeful play.
Yes, yes. As an occupational therapist, a child's occupation is to play. So I feel like I'm stressing that all day long, just the importance of play.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to
Sure.
practice routines too. So this article talks about practicing routines where children are following instructions, listening,
Mm-hmm.
and sharing, and having that ability to understand what sharing is, understand what turn taking is, understanding that other children have emotions and feelings. So it's important to give them a turn. So
Mm-hmm.
these are learned skills, right? They don't necessarily come
Right.
naturally to children. Yeah.
No, and we want to reassure parents when they open the doors and they walk into that kindergarten registration setting, and sometimes parent and child are separated because parent goes to an information session, child goes to do some activity so teachers can see what the skill levels are, not to be overwhelmed because the support systems will be in place
Yeah,
if a child isn't there yet. And it's okay to not know all of these many skills required in kindergarten from the start.
exactly. Right.
Mhm.
Not every parent is a teacher, right?
But there are ways that we can help parents.
For sure. So, I have a digital program, STEM Starts Now, where parents can sign up and have a weekly newsletter tailored to their baby's age, where they enter in their baby's birth date. So it's very specific to their child's development that
Hmm.
goes newborn through age 5. And I licensed this program to some school districts. And an interesting thing happened a few years ago, kind of right after we were coming off the pandemic. I had a school district that was using my digital newsletter and providing that to families reach out and say that they needed more. They said, "What else can you give these families? These children are coming in without the skills necessary to learn, and families are overwhelmed and they're overwhelmed with digital content. So what can we give them? Like what we
Hmm.
need something we can actually give them, like that's going to help them get their children ready for kindergarten."
Like a box of supplies.
Exactly. So I thought about this, and that's essentially what I put together. So I interviewed a bunch of parents, I interviewed kindergarten teachers, and then through an occupational therapist lens, I created literally this box that I think, I've continued to provide it for many school districts over the past 5 years that comes with a booklet that explains what skills are needed for kindergarten so children can be ready to learn. And we hand these out at the schools when parents come in to sign their children up for kindergarten in March. And then what this consists of is basically a 6-month primer for kindergarten. So
Mm.
each month there's a couple activities that are based on the kindergarten learning standards. And then everything needed for the activities is in the box.
Oh,
So
that's great. It's all right there.
yeah, everything. We've got the Play-Doh, the scissors, the pencils, the everything we do with the fine motor, stringing
Hmm.
beads, and so forth. We have emotion cards that we could, start talking about the social and emotional piece. Fine motor, we have a lot of STEM activities. We plant seeds. So it's a lot of science, technology, engineering, and math, but also in the planner, we talk about, the importance of playing turn-taking games and building
Hmm.
in the social emotional growth and
Mm.
helping children with even the co-regulation. Like we try to teach parents about co-regulation, about how children don't have their own ability to regulate their emotions. They kind of borrow that from adults, right? They
Sure.
they definitely need us to be calm and secure in how we talk and involve with them so that they can feel calm and secure. So there's really so much to how we talk and interact with children to keep them
Hmm.
so that they're learning how to manage their own emotions and um,
Hmm.
So it's been really, really fun journey for me to create these boxes and be there to hand them out for kindergarten
Right.
readiness. But I mean, you could put together your own bag of tricks anywhere. Just think
Oh,
about,
yeah.
some things you can do that involve turn taking, some motor skills. We want children to be familiar with the tools that they're going to be using in kindergarten.
Hmm.
So it's not they get there and they've never held a scissors before,
Yeah.
or,
That's a
they've
big mistake.
yeah, or
Hmm.
have had access to a ruler and started to understand some
Measurement.
concepts of numbers and
Hmm.
measurement.
Hmm.
So think about some of those tools that will be needed in kindergarten and make sure your child's familiar with using those tools. Um, I would also say definitely read to your children, make sure they're familiar with the actual book and reading a book. Also, some motor skills and also self-care skills. The kindergarten teachers will thank you if your children
Hmm.
are able to manage their own pants, unbutton and unbutton buttons when they're going using the
Yeah.
restroom.
Tie the
Maybe
shoes.
tie the shoes, practice tying shoes,
Uh-huh.
practice putting their own coat on and pulling up the zipper, engaging the zipper and pulling up the
Hmm.
zipper.
That's really
These,
hard for
it's
those little
really hard.
hands. They
Yes.
need practice.
Absolutely. A lot of skills need to come together to do those activities. So
Yeah.
those are all the things that incorporate to come
Yeah.
together to make a child kindergarten ready and ready to learn.
That's
So
great. And
uh,
I love the whole notion of getting parents involved. And I've always been passionate about that. From the early years of my career, I was always interested in research surrounding parent involvement in their children's progress. And one thing I did was I did a longitudinal study where I tracked preschool parents the year before kindergarten. And I provided several sessions, 7 sessions for parents over a 7-month period of time. And at every session, they would come in and I would have a different topic and I would show the parents how to engage in these activities with their child. And I'll explain those sessions briefly. But then I tracked these children to graduation, and every child that went through the program graduated from high school. Now, so many other factors impact that, but I was just excited to track those kids just to see what would happen with them because I truly believe what we do in the early years impacts graduation rates. And there's so much research that says that.
oh, that's such a great study, such a great project that you did with
Yeah.
Crystal.
And the reason I did it is because so many of my friends who were having babies were coming to me asking what they should do to play with their children, to introduce them to more academic building things. So I built sessions for the families based on phonemic awareness, rhyming, math and reasoning, comprehension, writing, concepts of print and book handling. And then eventually reading independently because I made little books with pictures and very little words on the page. So it was really easy for a child to read them. And it was just really to watch the child feel successful because, if anything, we want kindergarteners, pre-kindergarteners going into kindergarten feeling good about themselves. And we want them to feel ready because this is a big day when they go to kindergarten.
Oh my gosh. And that self-esteem is such an important piece.
Yes, it is.
Mm.
We want them to feel empowered, and also we want the parents to feel empowered because sometimes this is their first child going off to school, and there are tears. There are tears from the child, there are tears from the family members because it's a big day.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
My older daughter was one that had to be pried off my leg to get into the kindergarten class. And
Oh,
it was traumatic for both of us, and we still talk about that. But
that's so
yeah,
amazing.
as
Yeah.
ready as they are, sometimes that
Yeah.
first separation can be really hard.
Ready or not, here they come.
So true.
So, thank you, listeners, for listening today all about kindergarten readiness. Hopefully, you picked up a few tips surrounding ideas to prepare the little kiddos for their first moments in the kindergarten setting.
Yes, such a milestone. All right. Have a good week, everybody. Thank you.